rowdy.
Cast away.
Okay, so I'll just read this pretty quickly. So I'm not the narrator of this story, just so you guys know. People often assume that. So just pretend I'm not here. Okay. Meg won't stop talking about that house she lived at, and I have to admit, I can't stop listening. Even when she's told me the same story a million times, even when she makes her eyes big and her mouth open in shock before she gets to the shocking part, and even when she gets dirt from my pot plants into the butter simmering on my stove. Meg, I say, wash it first. Sorry. She puts the branch and scissors in my kitchen sink, then turns around and goes right on talking. That's part of her charm, I have to admit. The way she forgets about everything else and focuses all her attention except her wandering eye on me. She's not like other girls I've dated who wonder if you like them or how much. She just kind of assumes that you're already in love with her and then waits for you to play along. She makes it easy, too. The first night I spent at her house, she choreographed a dance routine to her favorite songs and showed me exactly how she wanted her dream guy to move. It was like Fred Mercury meets Prince, or something, and I perfected the role by acting like an over-admired rock star, which I continue to perform today. She cracks up because she knows it's an act, and it's not the only one I play, but she loves the stupid shit I do, and she loves showing me more things that I can do, which is why her last story is so important to me. So you'll come, right, to the party, she says. It's the ultimate way to end the year. You'll make so many connects, and it would be really cool if you moved back with me. I'm trying, I say, waving a limp leaf at her, as if this will really help me get the 3 things she's listed that I want more than anything. How depressing. I feel like I'm chopping off your baby's arms and legs before they even grew up, she says. I sigh. It seems like only yesterday they were seedlings that I was driving home from the pot club, their tiny leaves waving in the breeze. I had no idea they were such high-maintenance chicks, and this one turned into a dude. Oh, little Hermie, she tickles a bud. Your father and I still love you just the way you are. I know. That's why we have to bake you into pot cookies and sell you separately. Then she throws the branch with seeds into the butter without washing it and goes back to talking. This is how she goes through life, animating the objects around her into her own personal fairy tale that she swept me up in 2 weeks ago. This is an improvement from my first time, I tell her. When I was still living with my parents, I kept the plants in the trunk of my car and drove to sunny spots whenever I could. That didn't work too well either. Oh my God, I'm so glad I found you when I did. In Berkeley, weed just grows on the side of the street, and acid falls from the sky. Her eyes get wide again with the left one out the window, and she drops her mouth for a beat before she starts laughing again. I'm just kidding, but practically, I know people who have rooms full of weed. Will they show me how? Yes, I cut giddily. That would be so tight, because right now I buy ounces from Drew, but he won't tell me where he gets it from. Because if he introduced me to his source, then I'd get it for cheaper and he wouldn't make any money. Well, you know what they say, if you can't avoid the middleman, then be the middleman. That's why I want to grow my own weed. Then there'd be no middleman, no bureaucratic bullshit. It's totally punk, and I'd make way more money. Yeah, that's way punk, she says sarcastically, but she doesn't have to worry about money. And she goes on to tell me how truly punk this house is that she used to live at. I can't wait to get from the stories to the real thing. I've read every Hunter S. Thompson book and everything Alexander Shulgin's ever written. I actually read a lot, despite how high people think I am all the time. I want to know every experience that's ever been had and every good time that's ever been felt. And the stories, they help me remember things, which is why I get to thinking about Delilah as I clip the leaves over the butter, and how she cut off all of Samson's hair, and how obvious it was what she was getting at from an outsider's point of view. And I was just a kid when I heard that story. I mean, she kept getting him drunk and asking him the secret to his strength, and then he'd wake up with ropes tied around him, or whatever he'd said. It seemed like by the 3rd time he should have broken off with her, or at least kept lying. It reminds me of Drew, and how he won't tell me where he gets his weed from, the secret to his strength. But I won't get him drunk and seduce him. Instead, I met someone who offers to show me their source. That's why I'm glad I grew up Catholic. I mean, I don't feel guilty about anything. I know that's the stereotype. But if you do your own thing, and then you kind of tune in just for the stories, you get the gist that basically they all revolve around the whole good-bad thing. And I'm glad I was raised with the goal to be good. My definition of good definitely differs. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with selling drugs that aren't addictive and just make you have a good time. I would never short anybody or sell them bug shit. None of that stuff's in the Bible. I probably don't agree with most logistics in the Bible, but the whole good and bad thing, I'm into that. I've got my own stories playing in my head all the time too, which is why I rush around from one party to the next, screaming whatever random ideas and make-believe games spontaneously pop up. People excuse your behavior a little more when you're the kid with the psychedelics. Sometimes they think that all I am is some waster, but I just don't like being bored, and I only do psychedelics like once a month. People will often look past you though, whether you're a dealer or not. I once put a centipede and an earthworm in a bowl together, and the centipede just crawled over the earthworm and out the bowl, completely oblivious of the other one. That's how people are sometimes. And then someone comes along who recognizes that you're a real living being and plays the same games in their head as you. Meg, I say, what if I can't make it by New Year's Eve? I mean, I'm trying to make as much money as I can, but if you move before I do, will you wait for me? Of course, I just know how much fun we'd have because this party is going to be off the hook. I know, but I mean, like, can I call you my girlfriend? She puts the weed down. What difference does it make what we call it? I really, really like you. You're exactly what I wish for. But if something else comes up, then we shouldn't hold each other back, right? Like, if you want to bang some totally hot chick, that shouldn't matter. That has nothing to do with me. I throw the rest of the pot into the butter and turn to her. I want to be your boyfriend. Stop trying to have some liberal Berkeley relationship. She starts cracking up. Her left eye flutters against its instinct to wander and twitches over my face while her good eye falls helplessly on mine with such joy. I know that it really doesn't matter what we call it, as long as she's looking at me like that. I would just feel better if we made it official, like how couples in the olden days got married before the guy went off to war. She starts trimming my last plant and continues chuckling, because whenever you say something funny, she repeats the joke to herself right afterwards, and brings it up the next day too. She suddenly stops clipping and brings her hand to her neck, pretending to choke and hacking for no reason. Under her wife beater, her bones jut out of her skin, and she reminds me of a dinosaur shrieking. A baby herbivore cartoon dinosaur, but a dinosaur nonetheless. And how do you make a prehistoric creature like that your girlfriend? I had no idea this was what I was taking home when I first met her, at a club with an 80s theme in downtown LA. It's 18 and over, so I drove a carload of my friends, wondering what the clubs in the 80s were themed after, or if it was so cool then they all just dressed as themselves. She had on these tight pants that made her ass look like it was just waiting to be tapped, and a bunch of makeup. She told me she was from Berkeley. I want to move there, I said. I already decided I'm going to move to San Francisco, Montreal, or Istanbul by next year. She shrugged and said, Berkeley's closest. She asked if she could come home with me. I said yes, of course, because that's what you do with a hot girl. But I was nervous because she told me she was 23, and I'm only 19. What if I couldn't deliver? So I drove real slow. First to drop off my friends, then to get tacos, where we each discovered that the other was Mexican. Most people can't tell with me because I'm light and talk like a surfer. And with her, I just didn't think about it. Then to the beach where a wall of rocks twice as tall as us prevented our access to the ocean. So she climbed it. I thought that was so cool that she was impulsive and rough like that. But I had to ask as I followed. Do you always go home with guys from the clubs? She straddled the rocks at the top and laughed giddily into the sky. I normally don't even make it to the clubs, she said, and disappeared on the other side. I totally did not believe her. I thought she was just another party girl. When we finally got to my apartment in Long Beach, she went to the bathroom and washed her face. I can't stand makeup, she said, rubbing black and brown smudges onto my towel. My cousin said I wouldn't get into the club without it. Then she took off her pants. These are way too tight. My cousin made me wear them. I scratched my head nervously. She wore cotton underwear, yellow with little red apples on them, the same small bite taken from each repeated image. Then she sat down cross-legged on my bed, which is just a mattress on the floor, and I could see thin black hairs peek out from her underwear and covering her legs. All the girls I know shave, and I thought that was so cool that she was part of some other scene with a totally different style. She sat there in her underwear and a wife beater. No bra, she didn't need one, she was so skinny. And with the gel in her short hair coming off, she looked like a teenage boy with chubby cheeks and a wandering eye. I haven't seen her with makeup or tight pants since that night, and I probably wouldn't have taken her home if I'd seen her this way at the club. But it is this version of her that I'm falling in love with and wrestling to my mattress. I take off her clothes and immediately plunge my tongue between her legs. I get her in the right spot and she's screaming, "Oh, Renee!" That's what I picture anyway. What's really happening is I'm licking and getting no reaction verbally or physically. I try to navigate my tongue through all the folds and hair, but I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. I stop and look up. Are you into this? I ask. Maybe you should just put a condom on, she says. Her hips sing with mine for a few minutes and then stop. Her left eye wanders even further away, and the right one glazes over completely. I pull out and ask if she's okay. She shrugs and sits up. I take off the condom and bury it in my trash can because there is nothing more depressing than a used condom with no cum in it. She lights a joint, and I tentatively ask her what I've been wondering for some time. Did something happen to you when you were little? She rolls her eyes. So something tragic must have happened because you can't get me off? It doesn't feel bad. It just doesn't feel good. I know it's supposed to. She folds her arms and scowls at the air, kicking up her legs with scarred knees from when she played softball, and I picture her as a little tomboy sitting in the dugout. Do you think that maybe you're a lesbian? I ask. I don't know. She takes the joint. My first love was a girl, but we were so young, we mostly just kissed and cuddled. My second relationship was with a boy, and we mostly just cuddled too. The sex was okay. I bought a book to learn how to make it better. I guess I could actually read it someday. She laughs and turns to face me. I don't like labels or limits, but I like you because you're feminine and a boy, and you're awesome, so it should work out eventually, right? I hope so. I've never had so much difficulty getting a girl off, and I'm really not that feminine. I think she just thinks that because my name is sometimes a girl's name. But if that's what it's going to take to make it happen, maybe I'll try a little more. Thank you.